An extremely strong, pasty man sits in a locker room, waiting. He's got no shirt on, but he's wearing bulky, dark-colored steel gloves and boots, along with a pair of black tights. As he looks up at the time, you can see his short black hair and mutton chops. A muffled, cheering crowd along with blaring music can be heard in the background. The clock ticks down to midnight. 3, 2, 1. Like clockwork, the host chimes on. Alright everyone, give a warm welcome to Brick Dixon! The crowd explodes, cheering his name. Brick! 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 He steps out towards the caged arena. He looks out and sees every kind of alien creature. You can pick out humans, fish people, birds, robots, even some weirder ones like bug people or the occasional gaseous Nova kid. All of these people are here to see blood, and Brick Dixon is about to give it to them. As he approaches the cage, he looks around the room at the purple LED lights and tempered glass windows. He locks eyes with the hosts. Both are wearing masks, but he can make out that one is an extremely charismatic, bright red Nova kid who's likely the announcer. The other looks to be a hybrid creature, a mixture of a human and a dragon. Her hair is silver, and she has gorgeous blue scales. Right when he reaches the cage, he hears gunshots and laser fire off to his left. He turns to look as the crowd starts screaming and running towards the exit to his right. He looks back towards the host and sees that it looks like they had an escape plan of their own, seeing as they were already gone. He jumps down into the flowing current of people pushing towards the gunfire. He emerges on the other side. He spots two individuals, armored and heavily armed. It's obvious that killing their civilians is not their main goal, though. They're likely after something. And by the looks of their armor, it likely isn't money. They spot him and both point their guns at him in unison. "Hands up!" one of them says in a muffled voice. Brick stops. "I said hands up!" the man repeats. Brick begins to approach again. They both begin to fire at Brick. He cartwheels to the right and then performs a mixture of flips and rolls towards the two until he arrives to the one on his left. His hand explodes into a dark flame and he punches them straight in the gut. The force sends them flying down the hallway, straight through the large tempered glass window behind them. He turns to his right and grabs the man by the collar of his suit, taking a few shots to the chest before the man drops his gun. Brick doesn't even flinch. "Take off your helmet or I'm going to do it myself." The man clicks a button on the inside of his collar and the helmet flips back. Brick studies his face. The man is also a human-dragon hybrid. Silver hair, similar skin color. His scales are tinted green, though. But it can be assumed he has some sort of relation to one of the hosts. "Mother?" Brick asks. "What?" the man responds. "Is that who you're after?" Brick continues. "Sister, maybe?" "Yes, mother," the man finally responds. The man clearly locks eyes with something behind Brick. "You know, sir," the man starts, "you didn't kill my partner. So if I were you, I'd set me down and you get out of this unscathed." "You aren't me," Brick states. Dark energy gathers around Brick's hand and he swings the man backwards into his partner, pushing his partner to the ground. He picks them up and holds them under his arm like a purse. They begin to thrash under his arm. "Put me down!" a distinctly feminine voice barks at him. "Nah," Brick responds. "I will say, though, judging by how quick you got back up here, I'm gonna assume your suit has some kind of grappling hook. Don't use it. I will break it. This is not a challenge." Sure enough, this stopped her thrashing. "Now then, here's the part where I ask for your names. What's your name, little man?" "Clorin," he responds. "Good. Now who's the pipsqueak under my arm?" "Dev." "What's her relationship to you?" "You know what? Actually, I don't care. I just want to know if she's a dragon or not." "No, she's Kurhos." "Clorin!" Dev shouts. "Why? It's not like he can't check for himself. Besides, I'm trying to get us out of here without him squashing our heads like grapes." "Hey, aren't Kurhos those, like, rat people?" "I'm not a rat!" she yells, punching Brick's thigh. "Whatever, rodent, rat. You care to explain what your business is with the hosts?" Damn, well that's kind of a long story. But the shortened version is that Nova Kid guy betrayed us and his friends stole my mom's body because she's got incredibly good relations. Ah, I see. The old stop and swap. Pretty genius if you think about it. Yeah, sure, Chlorine responds. Anyways, Brick drops them both and begins to walk off. I gotta find a new gig, seeing as you guys ruined my night. Hold on, did you see where they went? Chlorine asks. Nope, no clue. They sure were gone pretty quick after you two started firing though, so surely they haven't gone far. Alright, see ya losers. The hell is Stop and Swap? Dev asks. No clue, Chlorine responds. Ugh, I'm tired of this helmet. Dev clicks the button to her suit to pull back her helmet, revealing large ears and a fluffy pink and white fur. Chlorine taps the button on his wrist to pick up the call. Hi, Mel. Do you see them? Melody asks. Nope, but we met a fellow who did, though. Quite the character. We've got to tell you about him later. I assume he told you where he saw them, right? Yeah, we're heading over there now. Good. We'll continue watching the building just in case. They reach the overlooking box designed for the hosts and begin to look around. They quickly find a button on the right chair, and when pushed, it swivels the whole wall around, chairs and all, into a secret room. In the room, there's a computer, a fridge, 2 beds, and a lift that only goes down. The computer was still on, and it shows security camera footage on one monitor, and well, on the other, looks like they left right in the middle of their game of Peggle. Holy schmoly, is that Peggle? Dev exclaims. Dev sets both of her hands on Chlorine's shoulders. Chlorine, I have an idea. What's your idea? Okay, so when we get back, we steal Epitaph's PC and download Peggle on it. You really think he'll let us use it? Nope. That's why we gotta steal it. You do remember how last time we used his computer, he snuck up behind us and gave us one of his patented sludge hugs. Right. I remember not being able to get slime out of my hair for like 3 weeks. Honestly though, Peggle might just be worth it. Sounds like a plan then. After a fist bump, they proceed down the lift. They take the lift down all 40 floors, and when they reach the bottom, surprisingly enough, it keeps going down. Eventually, small amounts of light fill the elevator shaft. They look out the metal grate, and to their surprise, they see a huge open cave with the Element 37 sitting there. This ship is an absolute beast of shell guard technology. It's able to store an entire army of men and keep them all fed and hydrated for well over a month. The ship is likely heavily guarded with men who are absolutely shell guard impersonators. Along with that, the ship itself is heavily armed and armored, designed to take out a whole fleet of ships. The most fearsome thing about this ship, though, is that it's equipped with the Ruin Buster, a laser so powerful it can blow a hole straight through a planet's core. Getting aboard would be no easy task. Turns out the guards out front were asleep, so they easily snuck in and grabbed 2 shell guard armor sets from the armory. After changing suits, Chlorine finds a field bag, empties it, and then puts the old suits neatly inside. He then zips it up and puts it on. Chlorine, I'm hungry. The hell do you expect me to do about it? Nothing. That was a cue to get you to follow me to the cafeteria. Dev drags Chlorine by the wrist at the cafeteria, just in time to watch the ship take off through the window. They both watch in awe, as if they don't get to see this sight every single day of their lives. They head towards the kitchen. It seems as if the kitchen has long since closed up shop, making it the perfect time to do a raid. They both set their guns down outside the door, and then kick the kitchen door open. They then begin sweeping the room with finger guns as if they were police officers. Chlorine motions Dev towards the freezers. As he approaches all the canned food, he spots 2 cardboard tubes. He knew what he must do. Hey Dev. What? Aboard! Doo-doo. 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 I. Chlorine suddenly stops playing Crazy Train when he notices. Holy hell, I found the baked beans! Well, slam those babies open already! Oh, I'm slamming alright! After sufficiently stuffing their stomachs with baked beans, they make their way down the hallway and end up locating a vacant game room. What? This exists? Dev exclaims. Why in the name of the cultivator does a warship need a game room? She continues. You complaining? No, I'm just surprised. Come on, let's go. Chlorine tugs at her arm. The instant they step inside, Dev's eyes immediately lock onto a TV with the Sega Genesis hooked up to it. She rushes over and grabs the Player 1 controller and pops in Sonic 2. What? Damn it, I wanted to be Sonic, Clarence shouts. Ha! Too bad. If you want to be Sonic, then you gotta be faster than that. Before too long, they had both ended up falling asleep at the controller. Clorin wakes up to the announcement of an emergency meeting. All the lights are now on. He checks his calls and realizes that Melody called him 6 times, and she sent him about 100 all-caps texts asking where they were. He wakes Dev up, shows her the phone, and her expression goes from a sleepy one to one that says, "We are so screwed." Lauren calls Mel back, and the instant she picks up, he says, "We're aboard the Element 37. Say nothing, start recording." He sticks the phone somewhere it cannot be seen, and then asks Mel if he can hear them fine. "Yes," she responds. Clorin puts on his helmet and then motions to Dev to do the same. They walk down the hall and see all the late arrivals rushing towards the meeting room. They follow the crowd, being cautious not to lose each other, and then stand back in a place where they cannot be seen but can still hear what's being said. "Welcome, welcome," the Nova Kid begins. "To open up this meeting, I'd like to post a task for you all." The TV behind him and Clorin's mother flares to life. As you're all aware, the death match we held last night was rudely interrupted by a couple losers out seeking revenge. But as it turns out, we found exactly the person we were looking for. Right here. See that? He just launched whoever was there, down that hallway, straight through that window. To put this into perspective, that hallway is about 80 feet long, and the glass right there at the end is tempered. The man who pulled this off is named Brick Dixon. He ended up leaving to an unknown location after the fiasco. If any of you happen to find him, I want you to call us in immediately. Now, next thing. There's a reason this is an emergency meeting. As it turns out, our cover's blown. The Shell Guard have figured out that the ship has been hijacked and they're currently attempting to find it. Currently, we're en route to our temporary HQ, this volcanic planet right here. There's a former science facility on this planet that we have since partially repaired. Now that I've informed you all of our plan, feel free for y'all to be dismissed. As the crowd begins to funnel out, Clorin grabs Dev by the wrist, and together they walk towards a part of the ship that has much fewer people. They look around before walking to the bathroom and locking the door. Dev turns the sink on, and Clorin grabs the phone to continue talking to Mel. "You two are absolute morons, but frankly I feel like I've told you that enough. Luckily, I predicted you two were going to be morons, so I bugged the suits I gave you. So here's the plan. You two grab the master suit and type in the code 395248 into the rest panel. That will remove the tracking device. It's a small little magnetic disc, so just hide it somewhere no one will think to look. Then, what I want you to do is to go to the escape pods and take one to the nearby burger floor. I'll meet you two there. Got all that? Yes, thanks Mel. Good." She hangs up the phone and Clorin slips it back into his pocket. Clorin opens the bag and swipes up on the wrist screen of the suit lying on the top of the pile. He types in the code, 395248. Sure enough, the screen lets out a pleasant beep and out pops a tiny disc. "Here, give it to me," Dev says. She takes the disc and pops it on the metal underside of the sink. "There." She turns off the sink. "Come on, let's go." As they leave the bathroom, they see one of the ship's soldiers approaching them. He's very clearly studying the two as he approaches. And as he passes them by, he bumps Clorin on the arm, letting out a, "My man!" Once he leaves, Clorin and Dev look at each other and chuckle. They reach the hallway leading to the escape pods, and Clorin gets stopped by the guard at the door. "Hold it. Engineers only." Dev chimes in, seeing as she's the only one wearing an engineer suit. "Look man, we're both engineers. He just lost his suit and this was the only extra suit that fit." He looks at Dev and looks back to Clorin. The soldier begins to speak. "What's the matter, man? You shy or something? It's not like a man to have his woman speak for him. It's a nice try though, I'll give you that. No suit, no passage, man." Clorin looks the man straight in the eyes. His gaze is locked in position for an extremely tense moment. Look, man, I'm not gay if that's what you're thinking. I'd be glad to take your woman, though, if you're done with her. Suddenly, Chlorine punches him square in the face. The punch rendered him instantly unconscious as the man impacted with the wall. Jeez, you could have... You know what? Never mind, I couldn't have. Let's just go. Right when they enter the room, all the alarms begin sounding. Looks like they've been found out. Chlorine and Dev rush over to the first escape pod they see and hop in. It was a super tight squeeze, seeing as it was clearly only made for one person. But there was absolutely no way they had enough time to pick another one. Chlorine hastily puts in the location of the nearby burger fool, and they're off. You don't think they're after us, do you? Dev asks. No chance. They've got as much to lose wasting time chasing us as we was staying there, Chlorine responds. Yeah, you're right. You know how Mel and Epitaph both told us that those suits can protect a wearer from a bazooka blast to the face, right? Right. Hold on a second. Dev takes off her helmet and then begins to squirm out of the shell guard suit. She gets the suit down to her waist and then lifts up her shirt just enough for Chlorine to see her chest. On her belly, right where she was punched, was a huge bruise. Chlorine lets out a response of pure shock. Holy shit, he did this through the suit? He instinctively reaches over to touch the bruise. Don't touch it, jeez, Dev says while smacking Chlorine's hand. Yeah, sorry. Wow. She hastily shepherds them out of the bay so the escape pod can be dumped. They take off the shell guard suits and dump them along with the escape pod. One can never be too cautious. As they travel through space, Chlorine and Dev explain their encounter with Brick Dixon in more detail. As they tell the story, Melody is clearly lost in thought. Judging by her expression, she's likely attempting to come up with something that matches the abilities of Brick Dixon. Melody is the type of person who's both fascinated by and respects all form of sciences, especially chemistry. She most likely gained this from the time she spent as headmaster of one of the largest Saturnian mage academies in the world. Saturnians are extremely well known for being very smart, moth-like creatures. Most end up pursuing a career in either magic or science, which, sure enough, is exactly what happened to Melody. They finally end up arriving on a very Earth-like planet, where once the ship has been landed, they walk out to the parking lot out front and get inside Melody's car. Once in the car, they begin their drive down to Epitaph's sweet shop. Once they arrive, they see the Angel Fortune out front decorating the shop for the holidays. She spots Chlorine and Dev and immediately flies over to them to give them both a big hug. Oh, I missed you guys, she says. She's dressed as if it's snowing even though it's only the 1st of December. I'm really proud of what we did to the shop this year. I want to show you two around. Come on! Fortune is practically dragging the two into the shop. As they pass through the door, the tiny bell jingles and they look out in awe at the winter wonderland that is now the candy shop. Dev begins. Holy moly, Fortune! For someone so opposed to the cold, you certainly know how to make a beautiful winter scene. I'm not opposed to the cold. In fact, I quite like the scenery. It's just that the cold is my one real weakness. Anyways, what do you think, Chlorine? It's gorgeous. I'm glad you two love it. I'm gonna walk down the road and help Red with her stuff now. Bye, guys! Fortune gives the two one last big hug before departing down the street. Dev and Chlorine approach the counter. Right when they reach it, Epitaph pops out wearing a toothy grin. Quite something that girl is, am I right? He states. I'm sure you two are here to help me out, right? I'm joking, of course. Feel free to go rest for the rest of the day. You two aren't it. As they begin walking towards the back, they hear Epitaph yell a warning at them. By the way, don't touch my computer! They walk through the back, enter the code into the wall tiles, and then ride the lift down to the secret lab. The instant the lift doors open, Chlorine and Dev look at each other for a second, nod, and then rush straight over to Epitaph's PC. Dev boots it up and begins to insult Peggle while Chlorine pulls over a chair. They boot up the versus mode and start playing. At first they are quiet, but soon their occasional screams of, "Hell yeah, bucket bonus!" or "Ooh, did you see that long shot?" got the attention of a certain short-tempered Shoggoth. Epitaph was so stealthy that neither Dev nor Chlorine heard him until it was far too late. They each feel a very slimy hand on their shoulders, along with an ominous, "What are you doing?" Chlorine and Dev both look at each other like they saw a ghost, and then before they could react, Chlorine was getting the patented sludge hug. Run, Dev, run! Dev gets up and runs for the door, but right when she gets to the doorway, she tripped because her foot was caught in slime. She was then dragged back to her very slimy doom, shrieking the whole way. Epitaph was so furious, he forced them both to work the rest of his shift without letting them shower until it was done. A slime-soaked Dev approaches Clorin, who is working the register. "What'd you think of Peggle?" she asks. "Yeah, it was worth it," he responds. It's been about a week, and yet surprisingly, the Shellguard impersonators have done nothing new. Dev is sitting half asleep at the register while Clorin is still mopping up some residue from the slime from over a week ago. Epitaph walks up and stands by Dev at the register. "Hey Clorin, get over here. I've got something important to tell you guys." Clorin puts the mop back in the bucket and walks over to the register. "Okay, so you know about Fort Awesome, right? The magical fortress that is completely indestructible and owned by that self-centered prick?" "Yeah, I know it," Dev says. "Good. So, how do I put this?" Epitaph pauses, looks between the two, and then says, "Someone breached Fort Awesome." "What?" "You serious?" Clorin continues. "Dead serious," Epitaph states. Clorin and Dev look at each other in the eyes, united in a common thought, one that tells they both know only one man who would be able to penetrate the impenetrable fort. Brick Dixon. As Dev and Clorin walk to the armory to retrieve their suits, Fortune ends up sneaking up on them during a particularly enjoyable conversation they were having and ends up snapping a picture. "Ooh, I got a good one!" Fortune says. "Here, you two want it?" She hands them a photo. "I'm so excited to join you guys. I'll see you soon." Fortune gives them both a hug, then runs off. They both look at the photo and realize that Fortune was right. It was a super good photo. "You mind if I keep this?" Clorin asks. "Sure, go for it," Dev says in response. Clorin holds onto the photo until they get to the armory. Once there, he looks down at the photo and smiles, before safely depositing the photo into his locker. They get armored up and make their way back outside to see that Melody and Epitaph had ended up going to get the van. They hop in the back of Fortune and Melody drives to where she left the ship. They climb aboard and take off for Fort Awesome. After a lot of flying and walking, they finally arrive at the fortress. Mel and Epitaph had chosen to have Clorin, Dev, and Fortune wear wires so they can hear if they need to come get them. The huge gate has been entirely torn down. They walk in and instantly spot Brick Dixon in the throne room. He's holding Swagolomew, the lord of the fort, by the collar of his shirt. He's thrashing violently. He knows what's about to happen. Brick turns towards the trio. "Ah, you arrived. Just in time, too," he states. He climbs up the stairs towards the throne, dropping Swagolomew at the foot of the throne. His neck is perfectly aligned across the last step. In an instant, Brick lifts his foot, and with one fatal movement, he crushes Swagolomew's head. A fine red mist coats both the throne and Brick's shoes. Brick climbs the last step and takes a seat on Fort Awesome's throne. "Feels like a dream," he said. He sits up a little bit. "As the new king of Fort Awesome, I declare the 3 men who I gaze down upon are trespassing on this holy land. Subjects!" he shouts. "Take them away!" Shellguard soldiers suddenly block out every possible exit. "You know, fellas," Brick begins, "maybe next time you should tell your boss not to let you randomly wander into an obvious ambush. Assuming there'll be a next time, of course." The soldiers begin exchanging fire with Dev and Clorin. Fortune approaches Brick, deflecting the stray bullets with her twin blades as she approaches. Clorin finally notices something strange. They aren't firing at him and Dev, they're focusing fire on Fortune. Clorin bends down and picks a bullet up off the ground. The bullet cools his fingers as he picks it up. As he looks at the bullet closer, he begins to notice something. Isogen, an angel's kryptonite. "Fortune, no!" Clorin shouts, rushing over to her, holding out his hand. She turns around to face Clorin, and in this moment it's like time was in slow motion. Brick rises from his seat, pulling a pistol from his belt. He sticks the pistol straight into Fortune's back. He mouths silent words intended only for her ears. And then he pulls the trigger. She stumbles forward, tumbling down the steps. The gunfire ceases. Dev and Clorin are in shock. "Now then," Brick begins, "I've been given a huge amount of money to kill you two. Whatever your squabble is, it's none of my business, but I've trapped you two in a deadlock. Either you two fight me right now and lose, or you can leave right now and I put a bullet in her head this time. Melody suddenly chimes in Clorin's ear. Shell Guard forces are approaching the planet. Estimated time of arrival, 10 minutes. That's your escape. Survive that long, and you all get out alive. Fine then. I accept your challenge. Ha, I knew it. Brick leaps from the top of the stairs, landing right on top of Clorin. He grabs Clorin by the leg, swinging him around the room before releasing him, causing him to fly straight into Dev, and they both go crashing through a pillar into the wall. Bye-bye, Brick says. Clorin lets out a sharp, pained exhale as they both slowly stand. Brick rushes over, punching Clorin square in the face before he'd even fully stood up. He then grabs Clorin by the collar, rotating 180 degrees before throwing him to the other side of the room. As Clorin was standing up, Brick drop-kicks Dev across the room towards him. He notices and manages to roll out of the way just in time. He runs over and gives Dev a hand before telling her in an exhausted voice, "If you want to be Sonic, you have to be faster than that." They split up to try and make it tougher for Brick to get them at the same time. After a while of running and dodging, Brick cuts Dev off. Brick throws 2 punches and then an uppercut. Dev dodges all 3 and then goes in for a counterpunch. Right before the punch makes contact with Brick's face, he grabs her arm and snaps it like a twig. He then throws her at the wall behind him. The wall by this point had taken so much abuse that it caves as Dev collides with it. He pulls her out of the rubble and begins to punch the helmet in an attempt to break it open. Clorin runs over and grabs him, hanging off his shoulders. Brick backs up at full speed straight into the wall behind him, crushing Clorin's back. Clorin falls and Brick throws him straight towards Fortune's unconscious body. He turns his attention back to Dev. Clorin looks at Fortune and notices that she's twitching slightly. Fortune suddenly begins to stand up shakily. She readies her twin blades, then bursts into a blinding light. Brick turns not only to see that the angel is conscious again, but she's now in a good enough state to fight. Fortune's features are no longer visible. She's just radiant light with her normal silhouette. The two titans begin clashing in an ever-brightening display of blinding light. After what feels like an eternity, the light temporarily dims, revealing that Fortune had managed to penetrate Brick's chest. Clorin finally slips away into unconsciousness. "This is the Shell Guard! We have the building surrounded! Surrender yourself immediately or we'll have to use force!" By the gods, what happened here? Was this place not supposed to be indestructible? "Hey guys, I found one! Looks like she's still breathing too!" Several days later. Miss Dev Arcweaver? I'd like to ask you a few questions. First, we were wondering, why were you present during the breach at Fort Awesome? I don't mean to be rude, but I doubt you or your associate were the perpetrators. I mean, with yourself, a former blacksmith, and your associate, an art school dropout, I doubt you two breached the fort. So then, why were you there? You can see her face is extremely damaged. A black eye, several cuts on her face and lips, along with, of course, the broken arm. The door swings open and in comes an extremely jovial Blue Nova kid. "What you doing, detective? Talking to my client without me present, you sneaky Pete," she states. "I'm gonna need to talk to my client, so it'd be best if you were to just leave." "Go on, get!" The detective leaves and shuts the door behind him. "There. How's Fortune?" Dev asks. "Alright, right to business, are we? Not even gonna ask about your man crush first?" Dev just stares at Fred. "Okay then, Fortune it is." Fred takes a seat. "So I'm not sure how much of that scene you saw before you ended up going unconscious, but somehow she ended up back in the lab without anyone bringing her there. Doesn't surprise me though, that girl's like William Afton's corpse. As for the bullet though, that's a whole nother story. Save me an explanation of the details. If an angel so much as touches the material those bullets are made out of, they'll quickly begin to freeze to death. So good news, she's still alive. Bad news is she'll not be able to live too much longer. As for Clorin, he ended up getting much worse than you did. His back was broken and he can no longer move his legs. Now then, here's the idea. You two are not being charged with anything. Not yet anyways. They do suspect you two know the whereabouts of Ruby and Blue though. So here's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to release you two the instant they realize you're much more useful to them in the world than you are locked up in here. So pretty much all I'm gonna need you to do is sit tight and say absolutely nothing unless I'm present. Got it? Got it, Dev responds. Sure enough, Red was right. Out pops Dev, wheeling Clorin away from the Shell Guard base. Waiting outside is Mel's science ship. Dev wheels Clorin up into the ship, and they both get flown back to their home planet. December 23rd. Clorin and Dev are working when they get called into the lab. As they ride the lift down, the alarms get louder and louder. The issue is that by the time it will be cool enough to send someone in to fix it, Fortune will be long dead, so they have no option but to sit there and watch their friend die right before their eyes. At this point, everyone's left before Clorin finally says, I'm gonna head back to work. I can't watch this anymore. He turns around. Coming, Dev? No, I think I'm gonna stay just a while longer. Alright, suit yourself. Clorin leaves. No one's in the lab besides Dev and Fortune. Suddenly, Fortune begins thrashing around. She keeps thrashing, and Dev clearly makes out a ghostly shape manifesting next to Fortune. Is it Death himself? No. It's worse. It's Brick Dixon. His ghost isn't in his normal attire. He's wearing a chest plate and a ragged cape. Along with that, he's got two swords. One, a rapier at his hip. The other, a massive greatsword on his back. He reaches out his hand. Looks like I beat you, his ghostly voice echoes. Fortune stops thrashing. Brick slowly turns towards Dev. I've seen him. True evil. Takes hold of all things, realities included. He'll let you live, not sure why. Mustn't be so merciful. Save everyone from him. I'll tell you his name. It's... Brick suddenly turns around. It's as if he said something he shouldn't have. I see you there, behind the screen. You're in danger. You're in danger. The ghost collapses and dissipates. Dev's breathing becomes heavy. Her thoughts can't be forged together through the blood thumping in her ears. It's deafening. Impossible to work. What should she do? What can I do? Mustn't be so merciful. 2 days have passed and the holidays are finally upon us. I wake up and Clorin had already gotten up to make us breakfast. I quickly gobble down my bacon, pancakes, and eggs and then rush to go take a shower. I finish showering and then get out and get ready. I hop in the car with Clorin and he drives me down to Epitaph's candy shop so we can give each other our gifts. As I sit in this car, I can't help but thinking something doesn't feel right. I can't pinpoint what it is. It's got nothing to do with Clorin or any of my other friends. Maybe something to do with... No, I just imagined that, right? Surely I just imagined that. What's up? Huh? You seem awfully quiet. Is anything wrong? Nothing, dear. Nothing, dear? Now I know something's up. What is it? Oh, sorry. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine by me. I can't help but feel something's off. What do you mean? I'm not sure what it is. It's indescribable. We arrive at Epitaph's shop and walk in. We have a nice chat before realizing that Red isn't there. We're told she'll be here soon, but after a lot of waiting, we begin giving each other our gifts anyway. Clorin and I got a bunch of nice gifts, but I'll say the two most important ones are the ones we gave each other. When it came time to come up with gifts, I wanted to make Clorin something really special. What I decided on doing was, I picked up blacksmithing for the first time in almost a year now. What I ended up with, although it wasn't as strong as some crazy laser sword Mel or Epitaph could cook up in the lab, it absolutely accomplished what I set out to make. I decided to make him a katana. It's got a steel blade with gold spirals etched all throughout it. The hilt is made of a beautiful wood wrapped in golden silk. Holy moly, if I told you I polished that blade until you could see a reflection, that wouldn't even begin to cover it. I even put it in a wooden case made from the same wood I built the hilt from. From the moment he opened the case, the way his eyes lit up, I might as well have given him heaven itself. Holy shit. Did you make this? I nod. His jaw is practically gaping. Well, now I feel my gift's nothing in comparison. He shuffles over to me and gives me a warm hug. It feels nice. Well, here goes nothing. He hands me a tiny little box. I unwrap the wrapping paper and pull the top off. Inside the box is a silvery pocket watch. I pull it out and take a closer look. It suddenly clicks why he asked me what my favorite metal was. It's made of platinum. I open the watch and what I find inside catches me by surprise. He had the photo of us that Fortune took placed inside of the watch. I'm so close to tears. I close the watch and clench it in my hand. I shuffle to him and give him the tightest hug I think I've ever given anyone in my life. I love it, I say. Hey, wait a minute, Melody says. Whose is this? She reaches for a small chest hidden way back under the tree. She looks at the letter taped to the side before saying, It's for Clorin. It doesn't say who it's from, though. She passes the box to Clorin, who pulls the letter off the back of the box. He opens it and I see his brow scrunch as he reads it. He pulls out a tiny key from the bottom of the envelope. He looks at the rest of us before saying, It's from Brick Dixon. I feel my heart skip a beat. He unlocks the chest and slowly opens the lid. He reaches inside and... Grab my hand, Clorin says. I grab his hand and he pulls me up the edge of the cliff. It's not clear what happened, but somehow we're both in our suits and no one else is to be found. At the top we look out at the world we find ourselves in. Everything is black and a deep crimson red. The reds pulsate from light to dark, and the blacks flow like moving clouds out of a nightmare. In fact, that's what I'm praying we are. There's a castle with the same color scheme, and right as we approach it, gravity shifts, falling us straight through one of the massive windows. We land right on a walkway inside a room of dozens of them, traveling in all different directions. We travel down the path we landed on, and after a while, we look out a huge window to see the Element 37 in ruins, right in the middle of the massive courtyard. Further out into the void, a huge blob monster can be seen. It's most certainly larger than the castle itself, assuming it's pretty far away. We walk through a doorway into a room that appears to be nothing but a walkway over a bottomless pit. In front of us, Blue comes crashing through the window onto the platform. He pulls out his pistol and points it at us. Clorin steps in front of me. Not a lot, but I notice it. What does he want, Blue? Your mom. He pulls the trigger and the bullet deflects right off Clorin's helmet. Clorin sighs before saying, You've already got that. Ha! I know, that's why I said it. He approaches us. You know why we're all here, right? As he's talking, he walks over and grabs my chin. As he does it, Clorin smacks his hand. Whew, feisty little thing. Finally decided you love her or something? Clorin responds with, Yes, now get to the point. You two are such fucking losers. Anyways, I'm sure it was Brick Dixon who brought you here, the slimy bastard he is. Truthfully, I have no idea what he wants, so I thought I'd just kill you as a test. But clearly I can't do that while you're wearing those suits, so I guess we're at a standstill. Ooh, I have a fun idea. I'll read you my memoirs. Blue pulls out a gold-lined tome and begins to read off the madness-inducing ramblings he wrote. He speaks of his tragic upbringing, which has been debunked by Red about 100 times, of his horrible sister who ended up being more rich and successful than him, and how society treats him worse because he's a man. Fed up with hearing his bullshit, Clorin runs over and hoists Blue over the ledge. Whoa, 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 whoa! Hold on, I have to show you D's! Clorin pauses, processing. D's nuts! Clorin fully throws him over, but he grabs the railing and instantly pulls himself back over. Can't get me that easy! Clorin begins to push at his face with his foot. This gives me a very critical question. Hey Clorin, have you considered just shooting him? I mean, he said he's not got any information, so you're better off just shooting him. Not true, not true! I know where your friends are. Think about it. If you got here, and so did our whole ship, then surely your friends did too. If you let me live, I'll tell you where they are. Suddenly, we hear a thundering boom that shakes the building. Outside, Melody's science shift can be seen falling out of the sky, very much on fire. Oh no, my leverage! Ah, well, I guess I best be going then. Blue lets go, plunging himself down into the abyss. Out of the window, I clearly make out two figures parachuting out of the crashing ship. We make our way to the final staircase up to the tallest spire of the castle. We enter the room. Inside, strewn across the floor, is a variety of robotic parts. Most of them look like they've been ravaged with an axe. That's when I notice something that makes my heart sink. Inside the pile of pieces is a fleshy material, and attached to the fake flesh is beautiful blue scales. I walk over and grab Clorin's hand. He's a psycho, he says. Gunfire erupts from the open balcony door. I walk Clorin towards the balcony, and together we look out on the courtyard like royalty of the keep. Yet we have nothing to do but watch as our kingdom falls before us. The explosions and gunfire slowly cease, and in the silence, Blue's sickening laughter reaches us. My eyes lock to the huge slime beast. Is it me, or does something look off about that thing? You know, besides everything about it? An ear-piercing noise hits us in waves. The force of the noise shatters the windows, and Clorin and I drop to the ground. As we stand, the reds of the world begin to fade to black. As the red begins to return, we find that nothing remains in the void. No structures, no beast, no shell guard army. Nothing. Just us and him. Brick Dixon. Brick is fully armed in the gear I saw his ghost in. Brick! Clorin yells. I have a question for you! The hell is Stop and Swap? I wanted to ask, but you were too busy kicking our asses to answer. No response. Clorin, wait a minute. I put my hand over his chest. Something's not right here. His demeanor isn't right. Ordinarily, Brick would stand proud, but he's not in there. That's not Brick. That might be his body, but that's not him. Whatever that thing is, it's taken hold. How do you know? He told me. I didn't heed his warning because I wanted to think I didn't get it at all. Brick suddenly lets out a haunting, unfitting laugh. He turns, and the look of his eyes support my theory. Brick's not back there. It's just a ghost. One of true evil. New arrivals, welcome, the ghost says. Always welcome, all welcome. Gutter home now. Clorin says. Sorry to say, but this isn't our home. You can't stay here. Oh? The ghost says in a defeated voice. Gutter. Not home? Yes, Gutter not home. The ghost draws the great sword from Brick's back. We'll make home. The ghost charges an attack with Brick's greatsword. Clorin's just standing there like a deer in headlights. I run over and tackle him out of the way of the devastating swing. A beam shoots from his sword as it collides with the ground. Remember, Brick says, mustn't be so merciful. We draw our rifles and begin to fire at Brick. He doesn't react, but the hope is that with enough damage he'll eventually fall. We nimbly dodge his wide swings. His attacks are much easier to dodge than they were the last time. Feels as if the ghost doesn't know how to properly use Brick's body. After a while of unloading, it feels like by now our gun should have run out of ammo, so I check the magazine to find that it's still full. I pop it back in and keep firing. After a while of dodging and a lot of shooting, Brick flinches. He lowers his sword. For reasons that I can't explain, he starts singing. Can I get a witness to take away the pain? He sings in a drained, flat voice. He pauses for a moment. Feeling like I'm walking with no shoes on broken glass. He continues. He hoists the sword over his shoulder and then throws it right at Clorin. He rolls it out of the way and they both draw the swords from their hips. They clash blades until finally Brick flings the katana out of Clorin's hand. His reaction time was sufficient enough to dodge out of the way before the incoming heavy hit. I keep firing at Brick's back until he flinches again, turning his attention to me. We exchange Brick's attention and dodge his lunges until his attention shifts. After what feels like forever doing this, Brick staggers. I'm standing over Clorin's katana and I pick it up off the ground and yell for Clorin's attention. Clorin, catch! I toss the sword at him. He catches it, rushes over, and drives the blade straight through Brick's skull. Brick stands, screaming in agony. Light begins coming from his skin as it begins to crack. His skin ruptures and explodes. A rush of air knocks us to the ground. The whistling, chaotic screams of beings beyond comprehension fills my ears. I can't keep my eyes open any longer. And when the chaos has ceased its roaring, Dev opened her eyes. Well then, Mimi, I hope you're proud of yourself. I'm warning you, Mimi. That thing is a force of true evil. It will get out eventually. And with him, every single ounce of chaos you've stored here in the gutter. It'd be like he took a cup of liquefied chaos and threw it straight through a ceiling fan. When it happens, nothing will be safe. He'll have his teeth sunk in everywhere. But Mike, look at him! He's so cute! You know what? I think I'll give him a name. I'll name him Jimmy. Yeah, I like that name. Dev looks at the photo of her and Clorin inside her platinum pocket watch. As she closes it and puts it away, a ring is visible on her left hand. She walks up to a bench overlooking a large body of water. She sits down on the bench next to Clorin and leans her head on his shoulder. The distinct sound of a jump scare comes from Clorin's phone. Son of a bitch! You didn't put the mask on quick enough. Did you? You're fucking me, right? Only if you want me to. I'm going to strangle you. And that's it. I was literally 2 minutes away from finishing this fucking story. Boo 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 boo. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed that. There's a little bit of GutterfanN lore for you. Follow me on Twitter or whatever, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel and like this video and all the rate 5 stars, and also comment, and also give me a Hershey's Kiss in the mail, please. I beg you. Anyways, bye.